And then we're going to bring in our racing analyst, Derek Daly, to talk about this tragic incident. Derek, when you saw the video, what was your first reaction to it?
Shock and horror when you realize what actually happened, because you watch the video and you imagine almost being there, and then to see the impact and the result, I mean, it just takes your breath away for that minute.
One of the biggest questions I've seen circulating is, why did he get out of the car? Yet there's been so many times where we've seen even Tony Stewart, after an incident, getting out of his car. As a driver, is it your first instinct to do that?
It can be. Racing drivers are very competitive, they're abrasive, they're abusive sometimes, they're highly strung, highly emotional, and when an incident happens, when you believe you've been wronged, it is not unusual to jump from your car and go and gesticulate and tell that driver what you think of him. We've seen it many times. We've seen it from Tony Stewart. I admit, I've done it myself. However, last night we saw it just went too far when the driver literally strayed right into the path of oncoming cars, and there was an impact. So
should there be a rule across racing that you can't get out of your car, that you could be penalized for that?
Well, that's an interesting question, because what I would hate to see is potentially a knee-jerk reaction to this incident and say, drivers never leave your cars. Could that be even more dangerous? Could you have a fuel leak and you're told not to leave your car, and suddenly you sit there and it explodes in flames? I don't know. We have to carefully look through more of the details of this accident, but I don't want to see drivers tighten down. I like to see the personality. I quite frankly like to see the emotion, and I would hate to see that ripped away from these events, because quite honestly, the emotion and that type of person that Tony Stewart is part of why he's such an attractive racing driver and has so many followers.
What could be done to protect drivers more, I guess, in those kinds of situations? Because like you said, emotions are running high. They're almost a danger to themselves sometimes.
Well, I think this is, let's say, a somber day for drivers now who will see, even though I am hot under the collar, even though I want to get out and show something to somebody, don't overstep the line. We're in a dangerous sport. The safest place you could be is inside your car, strapped in. All the safety that we've developed for all the years is around you. But it's perfectly understandable why you want to get out in case somebody else hits the car and say something else goes wrong with the car. But I believe the numbing feel of what we saw happen last night with Tony Stewart, that may have an effect on every racing driver who wants to get out and do something the same, that he won't quite cross that danger line.
Very interesting. Now, of course, the most important thing to remember is a young man has died, but there are still a handful of NASCAR races left for Stewart, who is still looking to make it into the chase. How does he overcome this?
Well, that's an interesting question also, because it is only Tony Stewart who truly knows what happened after we stopped that video. Could he have done anything differently? Or was there anything he did that exacerbated the result that we saw? Tony will have to reconcile that within his own mind, and I don't know what the answer is, but racing drivers are funny animals in as far as they can compartmentalize issues like this. Drivers have died in the past from accidents. They're able to put it away and jump back into the sport that potentially is dangerous. We love that about them. So there is a bit of reconciliation, because he truly only knows what happened. But I think after that, I think we'll see him back doing his job as we would all want him to do.
Now, this incident comes almost a year to the day that he broke his leg in another one of these sprint car races. He said afterwards that this is his passion. He's not giving it up. It's his love. Will he give it up now?
Well, these extracurricular activities are beginning to define Tony Stewart's career. Not in a good way. So he crashes last year. He's taken that from the back half of the season. All the sponsors who paid to have Tony Stewart drive their racing car, I'm sure would have said, I wish you didn't do that, Tony. Now, 1 year later, we have another incident. And the same sponsors could well be saying, Tony, are you, although you're on the back end of your career, are you a serious, committed racing driver that we should invest in, or are you a driver that will continue to be on the other side of the fence too often and cause us issues? I think there could be fallout from this, and Tony Stewart may have to decide, am I a committed racing driver, committed to NASCAR Sprint Cup racing, or do I just want to be as loose as I am and potentially have the distractions and the storylines, quite frankly, that we saw last night?
All right, thank you so much. As always, Derek, we'll be following this throughout the coming weeks to see what happens with this tragic accident.